All right, so what's going on, my beautiful black people? What's going on, folks? It's God Molecular. Um, just want to get into the conscious knowledge of wisdom, the overall knowledge of wisdom, and how you can take wisdom and put that and apply the wisdom and knowledge of the human black genome and how the black individual is God, and how you can apply that knowledge to you to gain financial stability, to gain economic control, to gain authority, and to manipulate matter itself by understanding that one truth. Even if you are a white individual, if you're a white individual and you understood the truth that the black man and woman is God and that the European or the Jew does not exist biologically here on the planet, and that there's only one product that does exist, which is your chemical compound as being a white individual, um, biologically being a genetically modified organism. But this does not mean that you are a bad individual. This does not mean that you are a pointless. You exist pointlessly. This does not mean anything terrible because you are a genetically modified being. This means that you are an life substance, and you were created for a reason, and that reason is eminent to the universe and its divine design. So the divine design. So, and you understanding that as a white individual and knowing that the black man and woman is God, you will gain great power in your works, and the power that you will be able to wield will be that of a African ancestry that will bless you. So, if you are a white individual, if you're a white individual and you already see yourself around black people, you're a white individual and you can understand black people, you are a white individual who have black children, you are a white individual who have if you are a white individual who have black children overall, if you're a white individual who has black children overall, if you're a white individual with black children, you have it within your biological positioning to receive a great blessing from the universe itself. But you have to understand that the black man and woman is God, and that your child is God because it is black. So you have to understand, and in that knowing the black man and woman is God, you will understand that you have to support God, and the only way to support a God is to worship a God. So you would have to worship black men and women here on the planet. And when I say worship, I don't mean set up on this pedestal to be seen as this person that you magnify each and every day. No. I mean to simply acknowledge all of the things that the black man and woman on this planet has contributed here on this planet, all of the technologies, all of the philosophies, all of the sciences, all of the educations and intelligence that we have discovered here on the planet. I ask that you acknowledge that we are the rightful owners of all these things, and that you acknowledge that in order for us to continue to create these things that we have created, that we have made to change the entire world and the planet, in order for us to continue to make these things, in order for them to be very purposeful with all of humanity, you have to acknowledge us. You have to give us a certain acknowledgement that would then work on our confidence as beings, because confidence is a metaphysical position, and energy itself. It will work on our confidence as being, thus propelling us to create the magics, the works that we have been creating at a better and a more advanced level. And this is all systematic, and in order to do this, we have to separate as black individuals here on the planet. We have to separate from white individuals, and white individuals have to acknowledge that separation as being a powerful being, as being a powerful move for the entire planet and all of humanity. Now, the truth is always before your eyes, and if you don't believe that this is the way the entire planet should be functioning, and I'm sorry, if you don't believe that this is the way the entire planet is supposed to function, you can look up If you don't believe that the entire planet is supposed to function this way, you can look into yourself. You always have yourself. So when you look into things, into nature, and how things are supposed to function, you're supposed to look into yourself first, because you are macromolecular. You are macrocosm. You're a small universe. So seeing that you're a small universe, each and everything that you see around you was a tool that was used within your cellular structure in order to operate. So, for instance, letters and shapes and things of that nature could be found within DNA and cells. All of these things could be emulated in DNA and cells, and they have expounded or become physical into this reality upon the imagination constructing physical reality. So, and in that understanding, you have to know who you are as a white individual so that we can continue to prosper as black individuals and progress the entire planet. But the knowledge of all wisdom, the knowledge of life, and the knowledge of the black man and woman is God. This isn't old, of course. We've heard people such as Elijah Muhammad, Minister Louis Farrakhan. We've heard multiple people state that the black, well, not the black man and woman in synchronicity is God, but they have taught that the black individual in either man or woman is God itself. So, for instance, Islam teach that the black man is God, and you have a teaching such as the Nuwapi Nation and the Kemetic sciences that teach that the black woman is God. But you have nature itself and the universal teaching on the universe itself that says that they cannot exist without each other. So both are God because they cannot exist without each other, and God could exist without anything. And they both are a synchronized level of existence, then they both are God. Now you have to ask yourself who was placed here first on the planet and how did they get here? Obviously, if they both are God, they both had to have been placed here on the planet at the same time. Now, over time, construct themselves with the gathering of molecules and things of that nature. So if they was placed here at the same exact time, they were created by cellular and molecular gravitational magnification. So by cells magnifying themselves and bonding together through covalent bonding, through a process with atoms covalent bonding. So through this attraction or this natural attraction of the entire universe, through this natural attraction, those gather and they get together and they form the structuring of how things work. So understanding that science and understanding how deep that can get is very important to what you know as a beautiful black god and goddess. But we have the knowledge of the black man and woman is God. We have the knowledge of understanding. We have the knowledge of all understanding. But this is my second YouTube video. I don't make much YouTube videos, but I speak on the knowledge and the in-depth science of all of reality. I'm God molecular. I study science. I study biology. I study all of reality. I'm a mad scientist. I study everything from politics to finances. You have to understand these things as a black individual because it pertains to your positioning as a person here on this planet. And in that containing of positioning, you have to know that you have a great amount of power as a black person and even as a white individual here on this planet. Because you have reasoning to exist, you have a great amount of power, but you have to understand how to wield your power and how to go about your brain. Now, you have white individuals who have the crystals and they study the magics and things of that nature, who have a somewhat understanding of spirituality, but you do not have it all in its entirety, and you can only obtain that knowledge in its entirety upon reaching individuals such as myself, who give you the one truth of how to attain pure enlightenment as a white individual. And you have to acknowledge the functioning of the entire planet. Now, the reason why I said earlier that we have to separate in order for the planet to function is because the planet is just like the eyes. The sclera, which is the white part of the eye, you see the white of the eye, and the iris, which is the dark part of the eye, the circle in the eye, is always separated. Now this is separated. You can see that the white does not pass into the dark part of the eye. It's always separated. Now this is the natural functioning of the eye itself, and the earth itself is an eye, and inside of the earth you have the third eye, which is the earth's core itself. So the Earth's core, and seeing that the Earth is a eye, you have the changing of carbon, which is reflecting in the ozone layer itself. So the ozone layer has a hole in its layer. So this is the impact of an eye. It takes on the formation of an eye. So the planet is an eye. So where the hole in the ozone layer sits, it hovers over Antarctica. And seeing that this hole in the ozone layer hovers over Antarctica, it's a metaphysical message for us as black individuals to gather in Antarctica so that we could be the eye of the earth. Once we all gather in one position and in one spot, we will be like the eye in the one spot on the earth. And white individuals gather on different parts, on any other part of the planet that they so wish. So, but us as black individuals, we have to be on one part of the planet in order for the planet to function, just like the eye and the iris and the sclera. You have the sclera in the iris. So, as individuals, as beings here on the planet and all of humanity, both black and white individuals, we have to understand the functioning of the earth. We have to understand the spiritual functioning of the earth. We have to understand the geometrical functionings of the earth. We have to understand the mathematics of the earth. We have to know these things in order to progress humanity, all of humanity, all of our understanding for the greater good of all of humanity. We have to understand this level of information. It's imperative. It's imperative. Sorry, it's imperative to us as black and white individuals here on the planet if we want to support humanity. But the black man and woman is God because of the works we have done and the way that we have contributed to humanity here on the planet. We also have a molecular structure in our DNA, which allows us to be a dominant force in humanity to exist as the operative functioning of all reality. And you have to look at reality as a functioning of particles. Reality, you have the elements. Elements are what's known as homogeneous particles. Homogeneous. You have elements that are homogeneous particles. Now, this is a scientific fact. You look these up. So, a homogeneous particle or homogeneous material is a substance made of the same particles. It's a material made of the same exact particles. Now, you have the opposite of a homogeneous particle, or the opposite of elements, and you have the heterogeneous particle. Now, a heterogeneous particle or element or material is something made of different elements or materials. So, because elements are made up of the same particles, they are very rare. There are only four elements here on the earth: earth, wind, fire, and air. So these four elements, which are homogeneous elements, these elements contain compounds that are summed up in science to be known as um, protons, neutrons. A proton, a neutron, I'm sorry, is summed up in science to be known as as to be known as oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, and you has phosphorus, phosphates, and sulfurous. I'm sorry, and extradiol. I'm sorry, you have extradiol. So seeing that you have these atoms and you have these chemical compounds, all of these pertain to your spirituality as a black individual. Now you have to break all these compounds down in order to understand the biological positioning of black and white individuals, because black individuals contain even more chromosomes than white individuals, and this is a scientific fact. So this is why black and white individuals cannot mate together, because in the midst of them mating, their atoms reconstruct themselves, and thus you have the birthing of all type of sexual transmitted diseases, because you have biological tampering within the acts of reproduction. And this can all be scientifically researched and proven. This is the reconstruction of the way that your DNA hydrates itself, and it does so through a process in the amino acids, through a process what scientists call dehydration synthesis, and through and through the carbohydrate process, and through understanding monomers and isomers and polysaccharides, monosaccharides, and you have different type of disaccharides. All of these things are substances that pertains to you scientifically. All of these things can be looked up scientifically, even when it comes to the eye of the world. And if you break down a smaller level, you have what's in your eye, what scientists call optical, I'm sorry, constructural isomers. They're called structural optical isomers. I'm sorry, and they produce structural isomers. And so you have something called an optical isomer, and you can look all these things up scientifically, which pertains to your vision. So this vision is that is within the eye, or that pertains to the eye itself, produces a chemical within your molecular compound called rhodopsin. So rhodopsin could be found as a work or a chemical or non-polar compound within the atomic composure of the eye. So understanding how the eye works, you can then translate that science into the activity of the entire planet, because the planet is an eye itself. And the Earth's core itself is the third eye. You have the sun, the earth, and then the third eye as the Earth's core as the third eye. Understanding biology and understanding how that biology can pertain to you as a science or as a black individual, you would then understand how you operate and have knowledge of yourself. And this could propel you into a magical appearance. You will have a magical role in your destiny once you understand this knowledge, and that magical role would propel you and progress all of humanity. So you have to know these things as a black individual of what you are as a black person. You are a super intelligent carbon being. Now you have individuals who understand and I have a video, my previous video before this, I broke down the science of 666, which biologically has been scientifically discovered as 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, and how it's broken down in the book of Revelation as an act of chemistry, and how in the book of Revelation, as it describes different types of crystals being found as being found as reflections of a new land in the book of Revelation. These crystal substances are a reflection of how atoms gather, because atoms gather and they start to crystallize. And one of the eldest crystallized substances is copper itself. And when copper starts to crystallize, it has a repetition and in its formation. It starts to repeat on how it gathers together with other atoms, and then this is what scientists call a cubic lattice. So this cubic lattice or cubic lattice, which is the repetition of the folding of atoms themselves, it starts to form and rotate and make shapes, and these shapes. So understanding the in-depth science of how crystals and even gases themselves, how you can find gas within the carbon skeletal chains of fat. Fat has 16 to 18 carbon skeletal atoms within its chain structuring. So, seeing that it has 16 to 18 carbon skeletal atoms within its chain structuring, when atoms compose and they get together and they start to formulate, they leave pockets they leave pockets of gas within their formulation. So everything has a pocket of gas, and these pockets of gases contains and holds air. So these air pockets that could be found within the formation of crystals have been correlated with the presence of melanin itself. Melanin is found within the air pockets of crystals itself. Now these air pockets is darkness presence in the formation of all of the atomic structurings in the entire universe. So with darkness being present in everything, everything has a cosmic melanin. Everything has a melanin. And melanin and that darkness could be found even behind the stars as you see at night, because the only reason you can see the stars is because of the darkness that's behind them. All of these things have a metaphysical transaction to being black. And in being black, you are God. And this all pertains to the biological structuring of who you are as an individual. But if you find a video, you're listening to the information, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the video so that we can share the information and I can continue to give the information to each and every last beautiful black individual and white individual who understands that the black man and woman of the earth is God because of the works we've done. And you can find our works in each and every last corner of this entire planet and how we contributed to all of humanity. And you can find biologically how old we are in the prokaryotic cell, which created itself from the inside out, and a as a functioning of what I mentioned earlier, what scientists call irreducible complexity. But I thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please make sure you subscribe. Man, I have plenty of knowledge, man. I'm gone. Nobody could touch me in the metaphysical realm. Nobody can touch my science. Nobody can touch my astronomy. Nobody can touch my knowledge in the metaphysical realm. It's God molecular. And I come once every new age to give the entire planet the one truth. But thank you for listening. I'm out. Peace. In this video. Peace.